What's up guys, Scooterbout.com here. So today I'm gonna be showing you how to paint your calipers. Let's get into it. So as you already know me, I always like to paint my calipers, as you can see here in my ET2, and I already finished doing this beautiful baby because I don't know, I just love the look, the contrast between the black rims and that little red touch that gives to the bike. So if you're not looking to spend that much money on buying a new caliper like a Bremont or something really expensive and nice, you can actually paint your original Piaggio calipers in a very easy way. You just gotta disassemble the whole thing and go through the bleeding and disassemble of the actual caliper, which is pretty simple. So I'm gonna be showing you how to do that. So let's get started. So the first thing you gotta do is remove your wheels, but I'm not gonna be showing you how to do that in this video because we're gonna be focusing only on how to disassemble the actual caliper and get it ready for painting. So click in that video right there if you wanna see how to remove your wheels. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start by removing the oil line. Sometimes this is really tight. Remember, you have two sealing oil rings. You want to try to lift them in the same direction they were. As you can see, the one here in the top is there, so I'm gonna head and put it right here. See, because once you seal this, it goes to a certain shape that you will have to replace a new ones. It's always good to do with the new ones, but in this case, we're gonna try to do it the same way. You want to leave the rack on the bottom of it so it's not spilling any oil. There, I'm gonna use my impact. Remember always to leave the screws in the same position. You want to grab the caliper, just gonna pull, and this is just slide right out. So I was going to replace my pads, but these pads still have plenty of light. These only have like 4,000, 5,000 miles, so you don't actually need to replace them. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove them. So you want to go ahead and remove that clip. Be careful you don't lose that clip. You want to take that clip and put it in the side, and then you're going to be able to push with the screwdriver, and there we go. Take out the pin. So when you remove the pin, it's gonna release both pads. So as soon as you remove this, try to take this. Remember the position. You see it has a little arrow pointing to the top. So you want to take that out. Remember the position there it was. Put it in the side, and then just the pad, they will just come right out. So we have here the caliper completely out, ready for painting. But first of all, what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna mask what we don't want to paint. So we're gonna be removing this rubber piece that covers the bleeding screw. So you want to remove that, put it in the side, and we're gonna be masking that screw, these two right here. So you want to also cover this part right here, the oil line goes. You want to cover that, and also here in the inside where the pistons are, I don't get any paint into there. So That's basically what it is. We're gonna give it a nice clean, degrease everything, and probably just a little bit sanding. So after you remove the caliper, you want to have careful you don't miss any of these pieces. So these two are your pads. These are the two bolts that hold the caliper in place. This is your pin. This is what it holds the pads. This is a little rubber cap for your bleeding screw. This is a little pin to hold the clip to hold the pin, sorry. And this is a screw for the oil line with the two oil washers. So you want to keep this in a safe place so you don't miss any of those, so you can put your caliper back in place in the correct way. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and remove the front one. We're gonna start also by removing the bleeding screw. So you want to get a good leverage out of it, and as soon as you break that, you're gonna start dripping oil. So have ready a rag, and also be careful with the oil ring seals. I got one here. Pay attention to the direction and remove it from here and put it into the screw again. So I don't really care about the oil right now because I'm gonna be bleeding those lines later. Okay, something you wanna take care first and before you remove the caliper is loosen up the pads. This brake is a 2-piston brake, and the way it holds the pads is not the same way as the rear one. The pads are not being held by a pin, they are held by screws, so it's better to loosen this up before you remove the brake, because sometimes these get really stuck in it and they have some Loctite in it. So it's a 5mm wrench, Allen key, sorry, and you want to just go ahead and loosen those two screws. Go ahead and remove the other one. There is a washer here, a flat washer, and just in the bottom one there is the speedometer clip holding, and there is another flat washer after that. So you want to remove those two and keep that in hand. When I hold the caliper, take out the screw with the washer and remove the caliper from the rotor. So once you have the caliper out, you just want to go with the Allen key and finish unscrewing. You just want to loose both and they come right off. You want to push the pad a little bit backwards so it can help you release the pin, and there you go. This is how the pins look like. See how you have some Loctite on it, and that's why we want to loosen this up before we remove the caliper. So we're gonna put those in the side, close to the two others. This one still have plenty of light to it. These are the original pads that come with the scooter. I'm not gonna be changing this because they still have plenty of light to it. You could change it because these are organic made, and these are mostly for the old version of the scooter. If you get a new set of pads, you're gonna have a little more of brake resistance. So that's something I would like to do, but at the moment I'll just stick with these ones that are still in great condition. So I'm just gonna go clean it a little bit. I'm gonna be cleaning this caliper too before painting. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that clip in the inside, because you don't want to get paint into that clip. And remember the position of it. So putting it aside, we are also going to be removing this rubber part. See if you can just pull it out. You got some rubber seals. You just pull it out like that, and that's it. We're going to put some new grease, so you don't want to be painting that. I'm going to leave this piece in black. We want to remove these rubber pieces, so we are not painting this. Remember the position that they were in. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick them into there. You can remove it from the opposite side. See? Just pull it, and that's how you remove it. See, just stick it in here for the moment, and you're just gonna put this in a side. Remove the bleeding rubber cap. This is little bleeding from the bleeding screw. Make sure you remove that. You don't want to be painting any rubber parts, because with the time they're gonna start breaking up and you will have to replace or buy a new caliper, because they don't sell any rebuilding kits for this caliper, so you just will have to buy a new set. So we're gonna be masking the bleeding screw where the hose goes connected, because you don't want to be painting this flat part, which is what is gonna be sealing the oil. So you just want to give it a nice clean and make sure you don't get any paint on it. And we're also gonna be masking here in the inside, so we're not getting paint into the piston. We're gonna be pushing this piston back inside. Just push it with your hands. Sometimes it's better to use a flat screwdriver when you have the pads on. But since I already removed everything and I don't have any oil line connected, it doesn't matter, because you just push them back and that's it. So let's get it ready for paint. Okay, so we got both caliper here, the rear one and the front one. I was gonna use some brake cleaner to clean it out, but I couldn't find any here in my house, so I'm just gonna be using some engine degreaser. I used to have some brake cleaner around, but I'm just gonna use this because it's not too bad. You just a little bit around. You don't wanna push too much. Mostly in the inside, the outside, just to get all the oil and the grease out. Just let it sit there for a little bit, so you let that degreaser work. With a little brush, just go around. Oh, after letting it sit for a little bit, just remove it very well with the hose. I'm gonna remove all that oil. And just let it dry. So after cleaning the calipers and letting it dry for a while, I'm just gonna give it a little sand, because as you can see, I still have some marks on the oil paint, and I wouldn't like to paint on top of it, which you're gonna still be able to see it, mostly in the parts where it's gonna be visible, like that one in the middle. So I'm just gonna go over with the 220, something not too hard, just to smooth out that surface. You see how it turns like matte? Just feeling it with the finger till this is smooth. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to go over the whole brake, you know. Just do it as you please. It's not something that you gotta do it, but just give it just go with the paper around, so you just scrape the oil paint off and you make some nice texture for the new one. Just to smooth it out, all those oil paint that we're peeling. So we're gonna start doing the masking. Got the masking tape here and the exact. So you're just gonna start masking those critical parts. Now we don't want to get paint on it, like the bleeding screw. So you just want to go around that screw, get as tight as possible, and close it. Sometimes it's better just to, you know, for this part, like the one for the screws, you don't want to get paint in the threads, so you can just like put a piece of tape on top of it like this, so you're not getting any paint inside the hole and the threads. So I just tap that piece of tape in there, making sure I don't have any piece of tape touching in the outside. See? Okay, well, they're ready for paint. This is how it should look at the end of the masking. See, I maxed down where the oil line goes. This is a bleeding screw. This is where the 2 pins goes, the cylinders, and the hole for the thread. So everything is nice and covered and it's ready for paint. It's clean, sand it down, degrease it. It's ready to go. If your caliper doesn't stop leaking oil, I'll recommend putting a paper towel inside the hole and then covering it with the tape, and that way you make sure that while you're painting you're not gonna have anything dripping or leaking. See how I cover also the inside of the cylinders so they don't get any paint on it. So this is ready for paint. Already applied the first coat. Very nice looking. They're gonna look really nice. I still have to apply the clear coat, so I'm just gonna let it dry for about 10 minutes to apply a third coat, and then I'll go over with the clear coat. Okay, I just applied the clear coat. Look at how nice and shiny that look. Okay, so after letting the caliper dry for a couple of days, it's always recommended to leave it 24 hours or 48. Good enough so the paint is nice and dry. Since you're gonna be handling this, tying things down, you don't wanna mark your fingers with a fresh paint, so make sure you leave it at least 24 hours to make it like fully dry. So we're gonna go ahead and start removing the masking and all that. You wanna have in hand your pads and exact to help you remove the masking tape. You wanna have some little grease to reinstall the 2 pins, the rubber pins. So you just want to have everything for your brake in hand. Remember the clip, the little rubber piece for your bleeding screw, the 2 pins that hold the pads, the 2 bolts that hold the caliper, both rubber pieces that go into the bolts, and this little piece, I don't know how this is called. So you're gonna go ahead and start removing the masking carefully. You just don't want to rip things up because you don't want to be breaking the paint. So this is what important. This is one of the most important things when you're painting is the masking. If you do a very well masking, you're gonna be really satisfied at the end because the results are gonna be better. So remember the bleeding line goes, but you really want to max that down because you don't want to get paint on there, because then you won't have a good seal. So you just want to leave that masking there, and as you can see, we have in perfect condition. Just in case, so you don't mess things up, you don't know if you still have some oil inside. So while you're working, I'll recommend to leaving this on, because if you start dripping oil, it's gonna get into the new paint, and remember that the brake fluid is bad for the paint. So you just want to be careful with that. Let's just remove this masking tape from here. And that's it. Look at how nice that looks. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna proceed to install the pads. So the first thing you want to do is install the, I don't know how this is called, I forgot, but you want to put some little grease on it. Since we degrease and clean everything, you just want to put a little bit. You don't want to get too much, because any excess of grease is gonna end up in your brakes, and you don't really want that. So just tiny bit, just to make things nice and smooth. And inside the rubber, we still have a little grease from the old one, but you just want to put a little bit to make sure everything is nice and lube. Try to take off the excess, with your finger. Next thing you want to do, you want to swap this rubber piece. Let's just take out a little bit of that grease, so we're not putting that into the new caliper. And you want to swap that little rubber piece inside here. Remember that when we remove that, simply help yourself with a screwdriver. You just want to squish that in there. If you can see pretty well, but see, you try to fold it and push it into the inside. If you want to use a little bit of a screwdriver, not too much force, because you don't want to put a hole into the rubber piece, just to push it and help it go through. And as soon as you start going from the outside, it's gonna pop out. This is why you want to let your caliper dry pretty well before you start installing things out, because you're gonna be manipulating this thing without, you know, caring too much when you're reinstalling everything. So you just want to make sure little rubber piece, the one that have that little tip in there, that goes into that inside. You just want to try to put that on. There we go. We got our little rubber pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and also install your bleeding screw rubber cap. Swap that in there, the little cap, so everything is nice and clean. So the next thing will be to install the little clip that holds both things, and you're gonna make sure that little part right here, the open part with that clip, goes into the piston, facing to the piston. And as you can see, the inside, you have a thicker part and it goes thinner into the inside. So you want to make sure this goes just like this, and you want to push it inside. Then you want to proceed and take out the, I forgot how this thing is called, and just slide it into the inside of your caliper. See, you want to make sure and you squish it well, take it out again and remove the excess of the grease. It's very important because you don't want to have that grease on your pads or anything, because that will be dangerous. So you just want to get rid of all that extra grease that got to squish out, and you can just wrap your tin again and slide it in there, so you don't have any grease squishing out of it. See? Then you want to go ahead and proceed to install the pads. So the first one you want to install is the one that goes against to the piston, which is this one, the one that doesn't have that hook in there, and slide it with the two little holes in there. So you just want to slide that down and hold it against to that. You want to make sure the holes are aligned, the hole for the pins. You want to kind of look through it, and as you can see, you got to push down to be able to put those pins back on. You want to make sure you squish your pistons, and I did it before painting and everything because I didn't have any oil. So you take advantage and squeeze the pistons inside, and next you grab this one and put it like this, slide it in, and that's basically it. You want to go ahead and push those down with your hand like this, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see clearly to the holes, as soon as you squish them down, you're gonna be able to see through the holes. So one thing you want to do before installing this is put a little bit of Loctite. You just want to take your pads and squish them down till you see that hole. You just want to get a starter, don't overdo it or anything. Take the other one and slide it through there. You want to help you push that pad down, but once you put the first pin, the second one is going to be easier. So I'm going to just screw that in. We're going to go ahead and just, you know, tie and snug it in there. So once you have your pads, this is how your caliper should look at the end. So we're going to proceed and just swap our caliper in. You want to have, remember, the two bolts that we remove Remember that one of them have a thicker washer, so you want to go ahead and get that starter, which is the one that holds the speedometer cable. So you want to just put that washer in there, so then you're not, you know, struggling with your hands. Then you just want to slide your rotor in. You just hold it and get the screw starter. You want to make sure you put the little clip back in place and put that little thing that holds the speedometer cable away from the rotor. So you want to get the screw starter too, and we're going to proceed and screw them in with the impact. You want to make sure you get. But once you have installed the rotor, you want to go ahead and remove that little piece of masking tape that we left in there, and you want to make sure and you clean any X oil that could be dripping out of it, because you don't want to put, you know, brake fluid into your new paint. So we're gonna go ahead and take the old screw, and remember the position of the rings, so you don't have to be buying a new ones. It's always good to put new ones, because once you seal this, they go into certain position, because this is copper, so they get squeezed out, and if you don't replace them, you're probably gonna have a leak. So I have installed in my oldest project the same rings, and I have no issue with it. I don't have any leakage. I just go over tying a little bit more than they used to be, just to make sure I squeeze those copper rings a little bit more than they used to be. So you want to go ahead and put them in the same position that you remove them, and that's why I mentioned at the beginning to make sure you set them in the right position. So you want to set that in there, and you want to grab the cable, the oil line, and pass that through. It doesn't matter the direction of the hole. You have like a gap in between the threads and the end of the screw, so the oil can go around the screw, so you don't have to worry about the direction of the hole. It doesn't have to be like this, you know, like the hole have to go through the line. No, it doesn't matter. So you just want to go ahead and get the starter with your fingers. So you want to get your wrench, 14mm wrench, and tie that down pretty well. So you just want to give it a nice knock in there. Don't overdo it too much, because you don't want to be, you know, damaging the threads. So we're gonna just snug it in there the best we can. Make sure we don't have any leakage. So then after you have installed all your brake, your oil line, we're gonna proceed and do the bleeding. But first, we're gonna go ahead and install the rear one. Now, here's the rear caliper. Man, this came out very nice. So this is why I told you to sand this down before painting, because if not, we will have those scratches still into this new paint. As you can see, that one is still a little bit there. So you just want to try to do as best as you can. It's not something very important, but it came out very nice. I love it. You're gonna go ahead and start removing the masking tapes. So we're gonna leave that one in, so we're not getting any oil while we're working, and we're gonna proceed to install the pads. So you want to have in hand your pads. You want to have your oil screw, your 2 bolts, the pin, the clip that hold the pads, your little cap for the rubber for the bleeding line. You can just go ahead and install that one, and very important, the little clip to hold the pin. Let me give you a closer look. You just want to go ahead and install your pads. It doesn't matter the way, because they're both the same. Install first one, the one that goes into the top, the other one in. They're gonna be held in there. You just want to flip your caliper and grab that clip that I mentioned you, and you're just gonna get that starter there. You want to hold both with your hand. Just push it. You see how the pin goes through the pad. You want to push that pad. It can get a little hard. Push it all the way in. As you can see, we got both pads in there. You want to get your needle pliers, and you see how the hole is pointing to the upper position. You just want to flip that just like that. And then you proceed and install the little clip into the pin. Just push it with your finger. You want to grab a flat screwdriver, a big one. You just want to squish that piston back in there. So you're just putting your screwdriver in there and you're just twisting. So you twist to the inside of the piston, and you want to go uniformly, go from one side to the other and then from the middle, so you make sure that gap is nice and open. So we're gonna proceed and install the caliper. So you want to get your 2 screws ready, have both screws in hand, and you're gonna proceed and slide the caliper in and get those 2 ball starter right there. So you can help yourself with an Allen key. So remember the little piece that we left inside. You want to maybe grab your exact or a flat screwdriver and take that little piece of paper or the masking tape that we left in there. Remember the position of the rings. See, that's why I've just set them in the same position. And as you can see, you see how that copper have that little squish part here in the edge, and that's what I mean when you want to put them in the same position so you don't have any leaks. So proceed and get that starter like that, and then you just want to grab your 14mm wrench and tie that down very tight. You want to hold that with your hand and give it a nice knock in there. You don't want to go too crazy with it because you don't want to be breaking your threads, but you want to make sure that it's nice and tight so you don't have any leaks. That's how you install your caliper after the painting. Look how that nice and beautiful that looks. Woo! So after installing the calipers, the next thing will be to bleed them. So I'll be showing you how to do that in the next video. So click there if you want to know how to bleed your brakes. It's very, very simple. You don't want to be paying hundreds of bucks for someone to do it. You can just do it with a single wrench and a screwdriver, basically. And that's how you paint the calipers of your Vespa. Basically any other scooter if you want to. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click that like button, share with your friends. See you in the next one.